Welcome to the Life Leadership Podcast with myself, Leila Singh, all things coaching, career and personal branding. This podcast is for ambitious career professionals like you, wanting to create a life of choice and freedom, to be, do and have more through overcoming limitations, to develop new perspectives and insights, and to redefine your success, be that in work, health, relationships, and so much more. Hi there, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world today. My name is Leila Singh and I am a leadership and career development coach, and I work with individuals typically in the technology industry who are looking to advance their career, to stand out, to get promoted, to step into leadership. And my mission is to impact the trajectory of 100,000 people beyond what they thought possible. Why? Because I am passionate about helping you to realize what is truly possible for you when it comes to your life and your career. How do I do that? Through harnessing your leadership potential, all while showing up as the best version of yourself, what I call life leadership. Okay, so I'm going to dive straight into today's topic. And what are we looking at today? We're looking at enhancing your leadership presence with non-verbal communication. When it comes to soft skills, which are highly in demand and highly important when it comes to advancing, to stepping out, progressing in your career, the art of communication is often touted as the key to climbing the corporate ladder. However, often what the focus is placed on our verbal communication skills, whereas it's actually the art of the non-verbal communication, the subtle part of our communication that can truly set you apart as a leader. And that's what we're looking at today. And I'm going to be sharing with you a few little examples, practical steps that you can immediately start to work on, to implement, to bring into your day-to-day communication so that you can have a greater presence and stand out as a leader. So number one is, what is non-verbal communication? This is the transmission of your messages, your communication without the actual use of words. For example, through your body language, through your facial expressions, through your gestures. And even sometimes what we call the personal space, so the distance between individuals when they're together in a room, and that personal space, that distance between, the physical distance between people. And according to a popular concept within communication, words comprise 7%, only 7% of our communication, which means that 93% of our communication is non-verbal. So what does that mean? Well, actually, 55% of your communication is your non-verbal communication. So things that I mentioned, like your body language, your facial expressions, and your gestures. And 38% of your communication comprises your tonality. So all of these aspects will make a difference to the way that people perceive you, and also how you feel when you're communicating. And not only that, but the experience others have when you are communicating to them, whether that is one-to-one in a conversation or one-to-many, perhaps in a meeting or in a presentation. So this is a really important thing to work on and to develop. Why focus on your non-verbal communication and not only the words that we say? Because it is the cornerstone of leadership. Think about it. It enhances your ability to convey your messaging with confidence, with empathy, and the assertiveness that is necessary in the workplace. And this can, when I say this, your non-verbal communication, your presence can distinguish you between being a capable leader and an outstanding one. So before I go into some of the practical steps, there's a model, the 3 C's model. It's called, created by Jeff Thompson. And he says that to truly harness the power of your non-verbal cues, he encourages you to look at the holistic view of that non-verbal behavior, because that will help you to accurately interpret the underlying messages and the intentions of an individual. And the way he describes this in his model is to understand the 3 C's. So what are the 3 C's? The 3 C's are, firstly, context, which is kind of the obvious one. What is a context of which we're interpreting somebody's behavior? That's really important. And this is what I mean by looking at the overall holistic view. I saw an example recently where someone said an individual was crossing their arms and they were stood there like that. So they're being defensive and not open and so forth, when actually they probably were just feeling cold. And it's something we tend to do. So this is why it's important to look at the bigger picture, the holistic view. So in Thompson's model, he talks about number one of the 3 C's being your context. So that involves understanding the setting of the communication. In other words, for example, the relationship between the individuals involved in the interaction. The second thing is, and also, as I said earlier, it could be the environment as well. It could be, if it's a networking meeting, if it's a presentation, if your executive vice president or somebody's in the room, and that directly impacts an individual's non-verbal behavior, their communication. So just bring the context into play, the environment, the bigger picture. The second is cluster. So in Thompson's model, he talks about looking at the groups of behaviors rather than just one individual behavior of that person. And that will help you to have a clearer picture of that person's feelings or of their attitude and what's really going on for them. So again, the holistic view here. And then the third one is congruence. So checking if the body language, the non-verbal communication, is aligned with the verbal message. In other words, what's being said. Are the two aligned? Are they congruent? Are there inconsistencies here that can possibly reveal unspoken stress, maybe untruths, or potentially disagreements? So this is what I mean when we need to look at the holistic view of that communication before we start to interpret it or to make any assumptions. And this is something you can find out more about if you look up Jeff Thompson on Google Jeff Thompson and the 3 C's model that he talks about, where he goes into greater depth on this. So remember this going forward. It's the context, your clusters, the clusters of behaviors, and then the congruence. So is the behavior aligned with what's being said? So what are some of the practical non-verbal skills for a career advancement that you can take on board and start to improve upon, to develop, and to enhance? Number one is mastering body language. And what I mean here there's 2 aspects. Firstly, it's your posture and your movement. So in terms of posture, it's a straight posture and purposeful movement. And this is what exudes the confidence and commands respect. So conversely, if you're slouching, if there's excessive fidgeting, this can signal insecurity or a lack of confidence, nervousness, anxiety. So start to notice how you're showing up. Start to notice your body language, your posture, and your movement. When we think about posture, whether we're sitting or we're standing, you want to be having a tall posture. You want to almost feel like you've got that thread at the top of your head pulling you up, so you're sitting or you're standing straight, shoulders back and relaxed. So that also alleviates any tension or stress in the body. And a way to do this, if you are feeling genuinely anxious or nervous or stressed, is to take a couple of long, deep breaths. Why? Because this naturally relaxes the muscles in the body. So if you are unknowingly carrying any tension in your body, by doing those breathing exercises, you can naturally just relax that and move it, and that will help you to feel more relaxed and grounded and in control, but also have other people perceive you that way too, which is really important in terms of the perception of your confidence and your certainty in yourself and also in your communication. When you're standing, talk about posture here, you want to remember that what you don't want to do, what you avoid doing, is to stand, which is what many people do, with more weight to one side, so in a relaxed fashion. That's okay if you're out on an evening, socially and so forth. But when you're in a professional environment and you want to exude that confidence and that certainty and belief in yourself, you want to stand with equal weight on both feet, your feet hip width apart. And as I said, shoulders back and relaxed, head up. So avoid any slouching, any of this. I was on it was like a live kind of workshop a couple of weeks ago, and 3 individuals on there who were all in very senior positions in their organization, and they all stood up to present for a few minutes each, and all of them were slouching in some way, had a little bit of this going on. That creates a feeling of uncertainty, of maybe nervousness, shyness, lacking confidence. You want to be able to have your shoulders back and stand tall and be in your power when you are speaking, when you are communicating, because it will land very differently depending on how you're carrying yourself, your body language. So those are a couple of the core things. There's your posture, movement as well. You want that to be purposeful and meaningful, not just moving around, actively jumping around, moving up and down, pacing up and down, which I see a lot of speakers do, and it can be very distracting from the message. Think about it. Think about the speakers you've seen who can stand still and speak slowly. There's a lot more presence, a lot more gravitas and a lot more impact in the way that they're communicating. So high energy is good. You want to have high energy when you're standing and speaking, but you also want to have purposeful movement and not just moving back and forth across the front of the room or the stage, because it can be distracting. It can also diminish the impact of your messaging. Facial expressions is another part of this. So facial expressions, being conscious of your facial expressions, and because this can help to create and maintain an approachable yet an authoritative demeanor. So simply smiling, but when you're smiling, it just fosters that connection, that goodwill amongst the people around you. Number 2 is effective use of your gestures. So you want to use open gestures like this rather than closed gestures like that, to suggest that inclusiveness and the acceptance of the people that you're speaking with. Avoid finger pointing, whether it's like this or like that. You do not want to be finger pointing when you are speaking to somebody. If you want to gesture, use your whole hand like this to make your point, not that, not this pointing at somebody, but actually using your hand like this if you're looking to make a specific point or emphasize a point. So hand gestures is the second one. The third one is honing your voice tonality. So start to notice your tonality of your voice. Is it quite monotone? Is it varied? Do you create emphasis when you are speaking? Do you speed up in some places? Do you perhaps slow down and pause as well? So think about all of these aspects when you are communicating, when you're speaking. Vary the tone to keep your audience engaged. Avoid going into monotone. If you're not sure whether you're doing that, seek feedback. Seek feedback from someone whose opinion you value, you trust, and who has your back, who wants to see you develop and grow. Practice speaking from your diaphragm, so rather than up here in your throat, because that will also help you to project your voice more clearly and confidently across the room. And what I mean by this is sometimes when we're anxious or we're nervous, we tend to speak from up here rather than down in our diaphragm. So start to slow down and notice the way that you're speaking, particularly if you're in an environment when you are nervous or anxious. Slow down and take a deep breath. Speak from your diaphragm. It will help, again, you to feel confident. It will also project that confidence to others and enable you to project your voice more confidently as well in your messaging. So what are some key takeaways from this? First of all, your non-verbal communication is essential. It counts for more than half of your communication in a professional setting. Really important to work on honing and developing this. Secondly, use your gestures wisely. So remember, no pointing, but use your gestures in a way that helps to reinforce your spoken words and also convey your message more. Maintain good posture. This signals the confidence and helps maintain an aura of authority as well as approachability. And by the way, this isn't only about you projecting that confidence, when you stand tall, when you have your shoulders back and relaxed, when you have your head held high, it has you automatically, naturally feel more confident as well. So this is for yourself as well as for the impression others are forming of you. Facial expressions matter. These provide cues about your emotional state. So do become aware of your facial expressions and think about how these can influence the way that others perceive you. The next is your voice. Your voice does matter. So modulating your tone, keeping the tonality varied can significantly impact the clarity of your message and the reception of that message to others. Practice makes perfect. Sorry to say, but it's true. You got to practice. So regularly practicing these skills can improve your non-verbal communication, and it also makes it a powerful tool for you in your leadership arsenal. And if you're not sure how good you are right now and where the areas are for improvement for you, seek feedback from somebody who is a great speaker, who's great at communicating, who has that presence, that gravitas, and whose opinion that you can value, that you trust, somebody who's got your back. Always be open to that feedback on your body language, on your non-verbal cues, as well as your verbal communication style, and seek to continuously improve through practice, through grabbing those opportunities to be uncomfortable and stand up and speak, whether it's in a small group, in an informal setting, or it's professionally in the workplace. Mastering the art of non-verbal communication is essential when it comes to unlocking those new opportunities, to achieving your career growth, to being perceived as a confident upcoming leader. And the reason I'm emphasizing this is because the non-verbal communication is often overlooked and undervalued. So quick recap on this, and if you haven't done so, grab pen and paper and take some notes. Some of the skills that you can develop on is mastering your body language, thinking about your posture, your movement, and your facial expressions. Consider your gestures, bring in useful, effective gestures when you are speaking, and look to hone your voice tonality. And remember, it's not just what you say, it's how you say it that defines your leadership. Until next time, do remember to harness your potential, to elevate your performance, and to strive towards your growth and pursue that next promotion, that next opportunity, by showing up as the best version of yourself. Have a great rest of the week, and I look forward to seeing you same time, same place next week. Until then, take care. Thank you for listening. Please subscribe to this podcast if you haven't already done so. And if you enjoyed and gained value from today's episode, then do please leave a review telling us your key learnings and what you enjoyed the most. And do please share this podcast with your friends and colleagues so we can spread the word on life leadership, creating a life of choice, freedom, and new possibilities. Connect with me directly on LinkedIn, and if you would like to learn more about how we can work together, either DM me on LinkedIn or email me. All details and resources can be found in the show notes.